God's blessings for His children. God is pouring out blessings for His children. My beloved child, this month, God is pouring out an abundance of blessings into your life. You have endured much hardship and suffering, but now is the time for a great shift. God will wipe away all your tears and remove every shadow of doubt in your heart. This is the moment when He will pour out His provision, turning every trial into victory. Those who mocked you will witness God's power. The voices that tried to bring you down will fall silent in awe of God's might. God is creating a new path for you. Life often feels like a maze, full of unexpected turns, dead ends, and moments of feeling lost. But God is a master of redemption. When we think we've reached the end of our journey, He reveals that He is already working to create a new path, one we may not yet see but one that will ultimately lead to greater fulfillment. The key is in trusting that God is not finished with us, no matter how difficult or confusing the journey may be. There are times when the pain and struggles of life weigh so heavily on us that we can feel paralyzed, wondering if the challenges we face will ever cease. We may even begin to believe that the road ahead is too steep to climb. But God is saying to you, you are not a failure. I have breathed life into you, and you have a future filled with purpose. These words are meant to remind us that no matter what we face, we are not forgotten, and there is always hope. God doesn't promise that life will be easy, but He promises that He will always be with us, guiding us even through the darkest paths. The waves may rise high, and the storms may seem endless, but we are never alone. As we place our trust in Him, He clears the way. Each trial, each challenge, each setback is not meant to break us, but to mold us into the person God has always intended for us to be. When we trust God's plan and timing, we see the way forward more clearly. The path God creates is not just a way to escape our struggles, but a way to find deeper meaning, higher blessings, and a closer relationship with Him. And in this relationship, we discover a strength within ourselves that we never knew existed. With God, every setback becomes a setup for something greater, something that will lead us to a life that's far richer than we could have imagined. God is your source of strength and protection. In times of adversity, it's natural to feel vulnerable, to wonder if we have the strength to face the battles before us. The weight of the world can seem unbearable, and in those moments we might question if we are truly capable of overcoming the trials in our lives. But in these very moments, God steps in, reminding us that He is the source of our strength and the protector of our souls. When we try to carry the burdens of life on our own, it's easy to feel overwhelmed. Yet, God offers us His strength not just to help us survive, but to help us thrive. His power doesn't just shield us from harm, but equips us to face each challenge head-on, knowing that He will provide what we need in each situation. There is a deep peace in understanding that we don't have to fight alone. God's protection is not just a safety net that catches us when we fall. It is a shield that surrounds us, blocking the attacks that would otherwise harm us. When the world feels chaotic and unsafe, we are reminded that God's presence is always with us, guiding and guarding our every step. His love for us is unwavering, and He is constantly working to protect us from unseen dangers, even those we aren't aware of. In times of trial, He whispers His promises into our hearts, telling us that we will not drown in the floodwaters of life, and we will not be consumed by the fires of adversity. Through God's strength, we find courage to stand firm. Through His protection, we find the confidence to walk forward, knowing that no weapon formed against us will prosper. He doesn't promise an absence of struggles, but He promises that we will not face them alone. When we surrender our fears and trust in His provision, we experience a peace that surpasses understanding. A peace that empowers us to rise above every challenge with confidence. A new season of miracles and wonders is coming. As we face the hardships of life, it can be difficult to imagine that anything beyond the pain exists. The heartache, disappointment, and struggles often leave us feeling trapped in a cycle, where it seems as if the light at the end of the tunnel is just a distant dream. Yet, in those moments of darkness, God speaks directly to us, reminding us that He is a God of miracles, of sudden breakthroughs, of restoration, and of new beginnings. God is always at work, even when we don't see it. Behind the scenes, He is orchestrating events that will bring about a transformation so profound that we will look back in awe. The miracles He has in store for us go beyond the ordinary. They are not just temporary fixes, but lasting changes that redefine our lives. What may seem like a long season of struggle is often the prelude to something magnificent. There is an incredible power in the idea that God is preparing us for something greater than we can see. It requires patience and faith to trust in His timing, especially when things seem to be falling apart. But in the midst of these trials, God is working behind the scenes, preparing the way for our breakthrough. He is removing barriers, breaking down strongholds, and opening doors that have been locked for years. When the time is right, He will flood our lives with blessings so abundant that we will be overwhelmed with gratitude and awe. The season of miracles God promises isn't just about receiving things we've long desired. It's about the transformation within us that allows us to handle these blessings with grace. As God works in us, He also works through us, enabling us to bless others with the abundance He provides. This is the season when everything that has been held back will be released: peace, joy, provision, and love. By trusting in God's promises, we position ourselves to receive His miracles. These are not just acts of divine intervention, but signs of God's love, showing us that He is deeply involved in every aspect of our lives. The challenges we face today are not the end, but the beginning of a new season, one where God's wonders will unfold before our eyes. It's a season where His blessings will overflow, transforming not only our lives but also the lives of those around us. God's care is everlasting. God's care is not fleeting, and it is not dependent on circumstances. His love and protection are constant, regardless of what we face. The Bible reminds us time and again that God is our refuge, our stronghold in times of trouble. Psalm 23 declares, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." In this verse, David speaks of the absolute trust he places in God's provision and care, even in the darkest times. We, too, can take comfort in knowing that no matter how difficult life gets, we are never abandoned. God is present in every moment, aware of every pain, every fear, and every tear. When we feel overwhelmed, it is easy to think that we are alone in our struggles. But God sees our heartaches, our longings, and our desires. He understands the weight of our burdens, even when others don't. God's protection extends beyond what we can imagine. He not only guards us physically, but He also guards our minds and hearts. He shields us from fear and doubt that might otherwise cripple us. His presence in our lives acts as a constant reminder that we are not navigating this world alone. We are not left to figure everything out by ourselves. In moments of vulnerability, when everything feels uncertain, it is in those very moments that God draws closest to us. His protection and comfort are always available, but we must open our hearts to receive them. The love of God surpasses all understanding. It's a love that doesn't fade away, even when everything around us seems to be falling apart. We can rest in the truth that God is our eternal protector and that He will never abandon us, no matter the trials we face. God has given you strength to overcome all difficulties. God's strength is a powerful and unshakable force, and it is available to all who seek Him. As human beings, we often feel weak and incapable when faced with overwhelming situations. We feel the weight of our own limitations, and it's easy to get discouraged. But God has equipped us with the strength to face every challenge that comes our way. In 2 Corinthians 12 verse 9, Paul writes, "But He said to me, 'My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness.'" This is a profound truth. When we feel weak, God's power shines through in ways we can't even imagine. The strength that God provides is not just physical. It is emotional, spiritual, and mental. When we feel emotionally drained or spiritually exhausted, God's strength renews us. When we are faced with adversity, He empowers us to rise above it. It's not our own ability that gets us through. It is God's power working within us, propelling us forward even when we think we can't go any further. This strength is a gift that requires us to lean into God, trust in His promises, and surrender our worries to Him. In those moments when we feel like giving up, God's strength is available to help us keep going. The key is recognizing that we are not supposed to do this alone. God is our support system, our lifeline, and He will always be there to strengthen us in our weakest moments. The strength that God provides also gives us the courage to face our fears and doubts. When we trust in God's power, we can stand firm in the face of obstacles, knowing that we are not fighting this battle alone. God has equipped us to overcome every challenge, every obstacle, and every fear that tries to stand in our way. We must remember that His strength is made perfect in our weakness, and through Him we are more than conquerors. Trust in God and embrace His word. Trusting in God requires a willingness to surrender our own plans, thoughts, and desires in exchange for His guidance. In Proverbs 3 verses 5-6, we are urged to trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight. This verse invites us into a deeper relationship with God, one where we fully rely on His wisdom and guidance. Trusting in God means acknowledging that He knows better than we do, and surrendering to His perfect will for our lives. There are times when the world around us seems uncertain, when we don't know what steps to take next, or when we feel lost in our own understanding. In those moments, it's easy to be overwhelmed by the noise of our own thoughts and the opinions of others. But God calls us to trust in Him fully, to lean on His promises rather than our own limited perspective. When we embrace His word, we open ourselves up to divine wisdom that transcends human understanding. The Bible is not just a book of rules. It is a living word that speaks directly to our hearts and guides us through the complexities of life. When we immerse ourselves in Scripture, we find clarity, comfort, and direction. It is through the Word of God that we receive the wisdom needed to navigate life's challenges. Each verse contains life-giving power that transforms our minds, renews our spirits, and equips us to face whatever comes our way. Trusting in God also means believing in His faithfulness. He has proven time and again that He is trustworthy. When we trust in Him, we are assured that He will never leave us nor forsake us. He will lead us down the path He has designed for us, and even when we don't understand the way forward, we can trust that He is guiding us toward our greatest good. Embracing His word means allowing it to become the foundation of our lives, giving us strength and peace in every season. God is blessing you and your family. God will ensure that both you and your family are protected under His care. Every need will be met by Him. Keep trusting and hoping in Him, for He is always the one who provides for everything you need, whether materially or spiritually. You are never alone. God is always with you. God is the one who will never leave you. You will never be alone. Even in moments of loneliness, when sorrow and despair weigh heavily on you, God is there to comfort and embrace.